President Trump's Commission on Combating Drug Addiction and the Opioid Crisis has released its first report. The commission, chaired by New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, has been under fire for missing 2 deadlines to reveal its findings. The Trump administration has also faced backlash for not keeping its promises in fighting the opioid epidemic. CBS News White House reporter Jackie Alemany has been covering the story, and she joins me now. Jackie, I know you've been talking to officials and pouring through this report. What did we learn from it?
So first and foremost, the White House Commission on the Opioid Crisis presented a slew of evidence today, various recommendations that they want President Trump to take action on ASAP, chaired by Governor Chris Christie. They first and foremost called on President Trump to declare this a national public emergency. They called that the single most important response that the president should take at the moment, that because it sets the right tone and it makes available the maximum amount of resources to address the epidemic. The report couldn't have used language that is more stark. Christie said that 142 people die every day from the epidemic. America is enduring a death toll equal to September 11th every 3 weeks. The report also recommended recommendations on both the stock and flow side of the issue. So they recommended that President Trump step up efforts to interdict fentanyl, a deadly synthetic opioid that is laced into heroin, which has really spiked the amount of overdoses. They recommended to add additional funding for research to make non-addictive painkillers, because that has been, I think, 5 out of 6 people who are addicted to opioids are because of prescription drugs. They want to expand access to naloxone. They want to set up a federally funded program to expand Medicaid-assisted treatment. That's what people consider to be the gold standard of treatment for people suffering from substance abuse disorders. And then they also want to grant waivers to states to eliminate any barriers to Medicaid, to expand the capacity for treatment.
So there were supposed to be a couple of deadlines initially here that we saw come and go, where the governor and the commission were supposed to present some initial information. What happened? Why did they miss those 2 initial deadlines?
Yeah, so this interim report comes a month late. The final report is due October 1st. Governor Chris Christie actually kicked off the call addressing that problem. He said that it was delayed because of the outpouring of public response. He said that over 8,000 people emailed the commission with their own personal anecdotes and recommendations. And, you could tell that the report, which was 10 pages long, was very evidence-based and exhaustive. And Chris Christie himself has held several roundtables with people who do have firsthand experience with the opioid epidemic.
Well, what's been the response to the commission?
The response, actually, unlike a lot of other initiatives coming from the White House, has been very positive. You saw Democrats like Maggie Hassan, the New Hampshire senator who has been on the front lines of the epidemic for years now, praising the report, saying that it includes many of the recommendations that she's made in the past. But again, like much of what comes out of this White House, she has said that this needs to be more than just words on a page. A lot of what they've put forth requires funding. But the commission was also surprisingly, as I said, evidence-based. I talked to several experts right as soon as the report came out who said that the panel and the recommendations that they made suggest that they're acting independently to the White House. For example, expanding access to Medicaid, that is not something that the White House has advocated for, as we've seen with the healthcare battle over the past few months.
Right. And so I can see how people who might not traditionally line up with the White House on other issues might actually be looking at this as perhaps an area of bipartisan cooperation.
Exactly.
So in the meantime, Jackie, what is it that the administration is doing now to help curb the epidemic as the president, as the administration considers whether to implement these recommendations?
Right. As we've heard before, critics have said that this report has been duplicative and they want action now. Well, the Office of National Drug Control and Policy has been acting now. I spoke with sources last week who said that they haven't been waiting around for this report, that most administrations, when they come in, they do need to sort of make their own mark on an issue. So, while they do find the report necessary, they have been crafting their own aggressive agenda to combat the epidemic parallel to the report. For example, they're currently discussing a potential nationally, federally funded advertising campaign similar to the DARE campaign in the 80s, which was a national education campaign in schools.
Just say no, right. Yeah.
Exactly. That this epidemic is of such proportions that we need to start preventing addiction earlier, in elementary school. But again, all of these things do require funding, which, as we know, the Trump administration has been reticent to provide.
Yeah, it was such a devastating issue, such an important topic. Jackie Alemany, thank you so much for updating us on it.
Thanks, Elaine.